All right, we're just gonna get started in a few minutes. Okay, I guess we're just gonna get started then. So welcome to the first course for Introduction to Middle School Biology. And I will give an introduction about me pretty soon, but today's essential question is what is a living thing? And this meeting is right. This meeting is just like the first basic meeting we're having, so it might be a little shorter than our other meetings. So, yeah, we're just gonna get started. And tell me if you can't see my screen. So, oh, yeah, okay. So, first I'm gonna give a quick introduction about me, and then we're gonna go on to necessities of life, characteristics of living things, and then introduction to a cell. And our next meeting is gonna be all focused on a cell. So um, if we don't have enough time, we can move that to the next class too. Okay, so I'm Srishti and I'm a freshman at Eastlake High School and I will be the instructor for the rest of this course. So a little bit about me. In middle school, I competed in competitions like National Science Bowl, Science Olympiad, You Be the Chemist, and I did tutor science back then. And then this year, I'm part of HOSA, which is like a medical club, Bio Club, Science National Honor Society, and I'm tutoring at this organization. And if you want to check any of these competitions out, I highly recommend them if you're planning to go into the science field in the future. So, yeah. Okay. So, first, we're starting with necessities of life. So, it's basically like, what does life need to, like, what does something need when it's like alive? So, feel free to post any ideas you have about this in the chat. Yes, food is one of them, and we're going to go over that in just a second. Um, if, okay, we're going to get started with that. So an organized organism is like a thing that lives, right? So wherever a thing lives is called like a habitat. So it's a physical space where an organism lives. So like a habitat is like fish live in water. So like water is the habitat and then fish is the organism. And then organisms can only live in a habitat when their basic needs are met. So we're going to go over what those basic needs are, but every organism has a different habitat that they have adapted to living in over like thousands of years. Okay, so the first one is sunlight, which would be the most important one. Fun fact, all the energy for living things come from sunlight. So plants use sunlight to go through photosynthesis, which makes their own energy. And herbivores like deer, they eat the plants and then the energy is transferred. And then carnivores like lions and whatever you might think of, they get energy from the herbivores. So it all starts like with sunlight, and then it goes to plants, and then animals, and then us. We're omnivores, meaning we can eat plants and animals. And yeah, and we will be going over photosynthesis in like a later class, and it's a pretty cool process. Okay, the next one we have is air. So the Earth has an atmosphere which includes many gases like nitrogen, oxygen, CO2, and greenhouse gases, which are basically like gases that trap heat into the earth. Um, so again, plants use carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to perform photosynthesis, and then humans and other animals like breathe in oxygen and then let out CO2 into the atmosphere. Um, Next one is water. So water is an important one because water also, as you saw before, might be an habitat for some animals like fish, marine life, marine plants. So all organisms need water. And you might have heard of like NASA looking for water on like other planets. So water basically signifies that there might be life on the planet or there was life on the planet. So animals need water to digest food, form bodily fluids, and distribute nutrients to the body. So water is kind of like this like transportation vehicle. So water mixes in with like nutrients and helps them like spread across the entire body. Plants also need water to perform photosynthesis and produce their own food. So plants get water from their roots and they absorb it from the ground. Next one, food. So land plants absorb their nutrients from the soil or its surrounding habitat. So a nutrient is just something that helps an organism live or like better its life. Um, so animals also get their nutrients from their surrounding habitat. So it might be like we're animals too. So it might be like veggies, fruits, um, yeah, anything you might think of has nutrients in it, which helps us get glucose for our body. And um, the glucose that we get from these nutrients turns into ATP, which I will go on like later classes. Um, yeah, so food basically is the energy that we use to live. Last one that gets skipped over a lot is ideal temperature range. So for this one, just think of it as like a plant might die if you just like put it in freezing conditions or like really hot conditions. So it's a perfect mix of interactions between sunlight, soil, air, and water. Um, and this is like different in different habitats. So like you can't expect humans to live in like negative like 200 degrees Celsius or something, right? So temperatures on Earth for us usually go from negative 88 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius. Okay, our next section, and this class is gonna be pretty short, like 20 minutes ish. So yeah. So the next one is characteristics of living things. So how do we say that something is like alive, right? Obviously like living things will use those like five things that I covered before, but how do we identify what's living and what's not? Does anyone have any ideas in that? You can post in the chat. And then if you want, feel free to unmute and share out ideas as well. Something that grows. Yes, we'll be going over that. Um, okay, just continue then. So the first thing is a cell. So this is the smallest basic unit of life, and a cell has many organelles within it, which classify which type of tissue it belongs to. So we will be going over a cell like maybe after class or next class. So the introduction is basically like it's like a membrane bound structure in which it basically accounts for everything that you do in your daily life. And an organism needs it to stay alive. So if anything within a cell goes wrong, like your body might have negative effects to it. Second one is react and respond to stimuli. So stimuli is basically a fancy word for like anything in your habitat that might trigger a response. So a stimulus might be like it causes your body to react. So it might be like loud sounds, touch, and the picture on the left shows like a plant where if you like touch it, the leaves like fold over. So that's like a touch stimuli. And then some stimuli might be hunger or temperature. And then a response is a reaction to something in the environment. So a response is something like changing in your environment. Like the leaves response were to like fold over because they thought it was like dangerous. So they just like fold over. And then it might be like to run or to eat food if you're hungry or drink water if you're thirsty. Third one, adapt to their environment. So the environment is all the surroundings of an organism. Um, and the difference between an environment and habitat is that a habitat is specifically meant for like an organism. So it's like filling in all the four factors that they need, five factors that they need to like be alive. So the habitat fulfills all of that. And the environment is just like a basic area that's like surrounding an organism. Um, on the left, we see a cactus plant. So the cactus plants, the thorns of a cactus plants are actually leaves. So they adapted, an adaptation is basically a change in traits over time that can help something like survive better in that environment. So the leaves adapted over years to be thorns because it in the desert it's like very dry, so they barely have any water. So the leaves being smaller help it preserve more water and help the water not to be like evaporated into the surrounding environment. The fourth one is reproduce, and then we will be going over like mitosis, which is like a fancy word for like cells just breaking apart into like pairs. And the picture on the right shows that. So first is sexual. So there's two parents and they make unique offspring. So all humans they're formed by sexual reproduction, and then like you have unique traits, like different traits and characteristics. And then asexual is basically when there's one parent and there's like multiple copies of the offspring. So everyone's like a copy of each other. Fifth is contain DNA. So DNA is the full form is deoxyribonucleic acid. You're not gonna be expected to know that, but it's basically where every single one of your traits is stored. It's like the genetic blueprint, and it's stored in the nucleus of the cell, which is like the middle, like center control house of the cell. And the nucleus is an organelle, which we'll be covering next class. So this genetic blueprint provides like directions for the making of new cells or proteins that might like have different traits shown up in your body. Sixth one is obtain and use energy. So this is basically when an organism like uses materials in their habitat to carry out like daily processes like making food, maintaining homeostasis. And then homeostasis is basically like keeping a balance inside of your body. So if you're like too hot, your body like tries to like cool you down. Or maybe if you're like in freezing temperatures, your body tries to warm you up and then reserve heat in your body. Transportation of nutrients and others. And then one important like word would be metabolism. So metabolism is a sum of all chemical processes within an organism to maintain life, like digestion, respiration, cellular respiration, and that's like all everything added up. And like if you're losing energy to the environment with heat and everything, that's metabolism. It's one word. Um, And then understanding this like concept is pretty important because it shows up a lot in like competitions and stuff. Seventh one is growth and development, which basically, I think someone in the chat said that. So it's an organism increasing in size over lifespan. So it just the organism like spreading out and taking more of its habitat. And then an organism usually like grows like larger and larger and larger, but like individual cells, they can either like grow really big to their like mass like limit or something, and or they can like divide up, which I showed in like the reproduction slide, via mitosis or meiosis. And the picture on the left is actually when I visited a butterfly garden, and you can see the different stages of life this butterfly went through, like caterpillar to butterfly. And yeah, you can kind of see the increase in size over time. Yeah. And I do have a Kahoot. Do you guys want to do the Kahoot? Because this is a pretty short class, so um I will start that. Okay, so go on to Kahoot.it and then type up this pin. And I think there's two of you in the class, so yeah. All right. Yeah. So for this question, it's basically like metabolism um is basically like the sum of everything happening in your body. And then interdependence, which one of you did answer, I think we covered this in a later unit, but it's when one organism is like dependent on the other for something and the other is like dependent on the other organism. So like both are like interconnected and they can't like live without each other. And then homeostasis is like your body trying to reach achieve like an equilibrium, like a balance within your body if something goes too high or something goes too low. And just an FYI, all class PowerPoints will be posted on the on the classroom. All right. Okay. Yeah, I think this one is what I was describing about in the first question. Yeah. Yeah, I think this one, I was talking about the adaptation slide. So it's basically evolution is basically when an organism like inherits traits over time to like help it better fit in that habitat and like basically like enrich its life, like make it have a longer lifespan in that habitat. Okay, last one. Okay, so I covered like I think I might have like covered like seven and then smooshed just two of them together. But to be considered a living thing, an organism might like has to have like all of them, all those traits and characteristics, or else it's like not alive. All right, good job. Let me go back to the PowerPoint now. Okay. I will post this link on the Google Classroom, but if you want to read more about this topic, like characteristics of living things, how they're classified, here's like a textbook link. This might be really helpful for competitions if they look for specific details and stuff. Um, so this is the end of the meeting now, but next class will be like longer and we'll be going over cell theory, prokaryotic versus eukaryotic cells, and then plant and animal cells. So, thank you for joining this meeting. Next meeting is, I think 2 weeks later on the 18th. Yeah. All right. Bye.